when they're available, not used.
He's probably ran 10 miles already.
Well, and he got scared the way I was telling Joe and Molly, because nothing ever goes exactly right with the military. They don't book their tickets until the day they swear in, because they want everybody to travel together. There were 23 Marines, 19 of them got on one plane and got there just fine. Jack and 3 others got on another one, and there was a massive delay. They were layover in Houston on time, so then they went to Denver and spending the night in Denver, and then they didn't get to San Diego until yesterday.
So I guess 12 weeks and 6 days.
Yeah, yeah. You got a bonus day.
Now, did they punish the recruits for?
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, now he has to run 5 miles just because this plane is late.
Okay. All right, everybody, welcome this evening to tonight's joint Plan Commission and City Council meeting of Wednesday, August 6th of 2025. And I will take have roll taken for City Council and then also roll for Plan Commission.
Finkler. Here. Hammer.
Here.
Lawson.
Here.
Meyer.
Here.
Reed.
Here.
Relke. Here. Rostad.
Here.
Plan Commission. Albright.
Present.
Bright.
Here.
Finkler is here. Hajewski.
Here.
Cornman is attending, I think, via Zoom.
Later. He
Later.
won't be here for this one.
Okay, so he's absent. Myers.
Here.
Monday.
Present.
Traxler is absent. I acknowledge this meeting was posted and noticed according to law.
Okay, I would look for a motion to approve the agenda for this meeting.
So moved. Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Rosted, second by Alder Meyer. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, public comment for this? Is there any? Okay, Steve Bright, you'd like to speak in public comment?
I think I misunderstood. I thought we all signed it.
Oh, no, this is just for public comment. So, all right. So then, new business, discussion of the zoning and subdivision ordinance rewrite process, including but not limited to schedule, existing zoning map analysis, current ordinance reflection, and future ordinance solutions. And
I'd just like to
start-
quickly introduce Ben Rahr from Vanderwall and Associates. As a lot of you know, Sonia has been kind of our lead with Vanderwall. She is currently out on maternity leave. And so Ben is kind of stepping up in her absence and would have been involved in the project, but I think taking a larger role now. But I'll let Ben introduce himself and get started.
Thank you. Yes, great to see you all and meet you all this evening. Ben Rohr with Vanderwall. As mentioned, Sonia will be leading this project, but for the next couple of months and first part of this project, I'll be assisting. She did have her baby just a couple weeks ago. Everybody's happy and healthy, and so that's great news, but that means that you'll be with me through this process, at least for the beginning part. I have done a variety of different zoning code rewrite projects, and so I bring a lot of that experience to the table, but we want to obviously take the opportunity at the onset of this process to make sure we're understanding exactly where you all are coming from in relationship to what's working, what isn't working, and are there things out there that you see as opportunity areas for us to specifically address with this type of project. So starting with sort of the overarching goals of a project like this, obviously we want to increase user friendliness, clarity, and correct errors. From that perspective, obviously in older code, that happens over time. There's conflicting language that exists in the code today. There's obviously an opportunity to improve user friendliness with any new document, so we want to do those things. Additionally, we'll talk about this in a little bit more depth with the map, but we want to match the zoning standards to minimally reflect what we have on the ground today. Obviously, we want to also promote different opportunities as far as new growth is concerned, And so we need to match our zoning standards to best reflect not only what we have, but what we want to see in the future. We understand that housing is a challenge for all communities across Wisconsin, across the nation, frankly. Zoning is one tool and one mechanism in an opportunity area to provide opportunities for flexibility and promote different types of housing formats and frankly just enable those types of housing formats. We also want to reduce reliance on the conditional use process. State law changed back in 2017 really put handcuffs on communities, in particular related to denial of conditional use permits. So we want to move away from that process. That process worked before that state law change, but now we need to make things reflect more of by right zoning, but have standards in place that we're all comfortable with those types of projects moving forward. And then obviously that goes hand in hand with state and federal law changes. With a project like this, we're going to take the opportunity to bring all of those standards up to reflection of current law. And then finally, we want to promote high quality development, mixed use opportunities, a lot of the things that are embedded with your comprehensive plan and your goals, we want to be reflected in this project as well. So with that said, I do want to cover the project schedule a little bit, and then I also want to take an opportunity to review a little bit of that existing zoning. But the main part of today's getting together is really a discussion amongst you all in relationship to providing information to us, what's working well again, what's not working well, and how we can make some strategic changes and really set the path forward for all of us to be on the same page with this project. In respect to the project schedule, what we have before you lays out what is a 12-month timeline at the current stage. We anticipate that there may be things that need to be more flexible in this space, but we want to start with sort of laying everything out. The Plan Commission will be the guiding body for this project, so they will help inform the policy, they will review the documents, they will be giving direction to myself and city staff as we work through this process. But the council is encouraged to participate as much as you want to. So you're obviously invited to attend any of those meetings. You also have the opportunity to directly be updated by city staff as we move through the project. And then we will have some dedicated sessions like this where we'll review different things. But truly the Plan Commission is sort of the guiding body for this project. So looking at the project schedule, sort of high level, what we want to do to start off with is gather information. So that's what we're doing this evening. That's what we've done with city staff. And that's what we will do with the public in September via a workshop and survey. We'll take all of that information and then do what's called an audit and evaluation of the existing zoning code using that framework to understand what are the issues. So I could look at your zoning code and say, here's the issues that I see. What we're trying to do is mirror that with what you guys see as the issues, what the public sees as the issues, and what we want to address. So all of that will live in the memo to sort of set the framework and the starting point for this project. From there, we'll move into what is the base core elements of the zoning code itself. That's the zoning districts, the land uses, and the bulk dimensions. So your setbacks, your lot sizes, all of that kind of stuff. We'll move through in the fall in relationship to drafting those. And then we take all of that information and we start drafting the code language itself. And what we do intentionally is split the code into two different sections. Part one and part two. We don't want to sit and drop a huge document in front of you and ask you that, have you read everything? Do you understand everything? We need to break it up into different pieces. And so we've used this process to start with, like I said, the zoning districts and the land uses, work towards part one, which includes those elements in the text format, then move to part two, in addition to the zoning map, which will be a component of this project, and work through those different policy questions in respect to different areas of the code. So there will be a lot of different working sessions where we bring those ideas to you all, provide sort of options. Which way do we want to go with this key policy issue? And we want to obviously customize this to best fit Columbus and what we're trying to achieve with this type of project. So this will be our sort of guiding project schedule. I will stop there, I guess. If there are any questions in relationship to what I presented as far as the introduction, the goals, or the project schedule before I move on.
Does anybody have any questions from either group?
Okay. So then moving to sort of an existing zoning map analysis, what we did to start with is just look at, in particular, the lot sizes in relationship to single-family, two-family, multifamily, and then the R1 through R5 zoning districts, which are your residential zoning districts. We started with the residential zoning districts on purpose. Those are the largest amount of parcels in the community zoned in that way. Obviously, we're going to address commercial, industrial, institutional, those types of things, but we start with residential because that is the largest subset of area within the community that's currently zoned. What we also look at is the lot size to start with, because that inherently is tied to things like setbacks, things like the bulk dimensional components are in relationship to that lot size. And so when you're looking at a 12,000 square foot lot, that might have different dimensional standards associated with it, whereas those standards might not work with a 7,000 square foot lot size. So that's why we look at the lot size metric to start with, to just get a baseline understanding of where we're at today. So within the map, I don't plan on going through the entire thing in terms of parcel by parcel, but really what it's illustrating is a broader story. And so when we're looking at the community, obviously closer to downtown and surrounding that area is the older part of the community. What we see is a higher concentration of those lots in that area that do not even conform to the existing standards you have today. That's not all that surprising because, talking with city staff, they think that the last time the code was rewritten was probably in the 70s. And so the thinking was, well, we'll reflect the 70s development standards and move forward with that. Well, that's created a lot of non-conforming lots within older neighborhoods in particular. What we need to do through this new zoning ordinance is take an opportunity to look at those areas and make sure that we can build standards that we're all comfortable with that actually reflect these areas and reflect the type of development that is occurring in these areas. Additionally, on the flip side, there's new formats of development, in particular related to residential, where you're seeing a lot of developers go back to the smaller lot size type of development format. We need to enable that to take place within the zoning code. So we think we can accomplish both things at the same time, right? Address the existing issues and provide new opportunities by adapting the zoning districts to best fit Columbus. And so that's why we're sort of taking this high level approach to start with, of just identifying where these issues are. And then as we move through the zoning map analysis or development of the zoning map after we draft the zoning districts, we'll take an opportunity to test that on the ground. So we'll look at these different areas and make sure we're reflecting and creating an opportunity for these development formats to continue and for new opportunities to take place on a parcel by parcel level in relationship to that zoning map that we develop later on. So that's sort of a high level what this map is trying to tell in terms of a story. It's not intended to look at every single lot and say, oh, this lot, may be, miscategorized or whatever the issue might be. It's really to try and tell that story to start with. But for the bulk of the time we have this evening, I would like to hear from you all. And in particular, I had set up a couple of different questions as primers. This is intended to hopefully be an informal discussion where we can just bounce ideas off of one another. And most likely, you're going to want to flow between these three questions where it may be an answer to one that's also an answer to two or vice versa. But generally speaking, I want to hear from you all what your ideas are, what you think is working well and what isn't. So let's start on a positive note, if we can. If there are things that are working well with the ordinance. Now, I know you all may not be, super familiar down to every single sentence that's in the ordinance. So I usually frame this discussion in relative terms of development. So when you're looking on the ground and you're looking at things that have been built in the community, are there example developments that you can point to that you like, that you think are working well, that you think the process for that made sense to you and, was something that you would like to see replicated? If there's no examples, I guess that could be something that happens here. But generally speaking, what are we looking for trying to replicate in the future, things that have worked well from the zoning perspective? And I just want to start from that. Yep.
You're looking for process, not result.
Both, actually. If there is a process that you're like, this really worked well or this didn't really work well, that's helpful for us to understand, to try and build into the code so we can either avoid an issue or remedy, create a solution. So it could be an example of a development. So, for example, some of the stuff along the commercial corridor, I like this example of development that has, a higher quality building design or was well thought out in terms of the layout. Those types of things are helpful for us to understand what you guys are seeking out of this zoning standards.
Well, I'll start with a positive example. Do you want me to go to the left?
Yeah, if you could, please. Thank you.
Sorry.
I'll start with a positive example. I wasn't involved in any of the city doings that might have been behind the scenes to make it happen. But that new neighborhood, what I think it may be Redbud Trail, kind of across from the water tower, that street of homes, they seem like they're nicely laid out, ties in nicely with the little bit older street that it connected to. So that's one I would say where it looks right.
Is that Redbud Trail or Highland Ridge?
I think Redbud Trail.
Redbud Trail's the one with all the little tiny 2-bedroom houses?
Yeah, where it comes right off
Yeah.
of Dick
Yeah.
Street. I
Okay.
mean, those are some really attractive, just everything about it looks nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And that particular development that he was talking about, that initially was set up for fourplexes to be put in there. And, but yeah, with what ended up, being built out of that, it did end up really nice. Any other questions from anybody?
Will the process on repealing zoning ordinances change? I don't know if any state laws changed to make it easier. I brought forward one at the beginning of my term. 6-7 months later, we'll finally see a result. Is that able to be hammered out in our zoning code on what the process is, or is that obligated by state statute?
For a zoning text change, you're saying?
No, we have ordinances, you have it in here, vehicle-only focused development patterns type
Yeah.
thing, right? So, cars, UTVs, things like that can only technically be placed on the side of a house or in the backyard, according to our current code.
Yeah.
I know that the process to get it repealed or changed is not a short one by any means. So I'm looking to find out if the process for us as a city to change zoning codes is still going to remain a super long, drawn-out process, or are we able to expedite it?
The bare minimum state statute requirement for changing the zoning code anyway is that it would be a class 2 notice that has 2 weeks in advance, and that it would be recommended by the plan commission and adopted by the council. So that is the bare minimum statutory requirement. Whether it takes longer from the perspective of policy decisions, that's up to you guys. But that will be the path forward in terms of reflecting those state statutes in the ordinance. So it would be that as the bare minimum. But from the perspective of things on the street within the right-of-way, the zoning code does not control things in the right-of-way, if that's, but you're talking about parking off of,
In
off of
people's
the,
yards.
yeah,
they can't-
okay.
Technically, they can't
Perfect.
So that would fall under the zoning purview, yes.
Correct.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And has that been addressed from your
I believe
perspective?
It's being addressed. I haven't had a chance to follow up on it, but. Sorry. I think it's being addressed. I believe that they made a recommendation to change it. So I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. Well, that is helpful because then if you guys went through that process already, we can build those standards after they're adopted directly into this document, yes.
Yeah, it's on.
It's on, thank you. I would just ask, as we go and we start to zone and as we expand the city, so we've got an existing neighborhood that has single-family homes, multi-dwelling homes,
Yeah.
whatever that is, as you expand next to those properties, keep those single-family homes together and then potentially the multi-family homes together in areas rather than having the zone mix all the properties from somebody that has purchased a home in a single family and then to have a fourplex or a apartment building behind them could be challenging for the homeowner.
Anybody first?
Go ahead.
Okay. With regard to how the developments in the city sort of look and are laid out, I don't feel like there are any developments that are awkwardly done, poorly laid out, at least residential ones. So I'm thinking this is where it's probably worth kind of enumerating what we've done in this city over the last 15 years, right? Highland Ridge got mentioned. That was intended to be a multi-phase development. That Redbud Trail was actually originally a portion of Highland Ridge, I think. And then that needed a rezone because there was a totally new use envisioned, okay? I think that was reasonably laid out. What's it called behind the water tower? Sorry, I guess it'd be east of the water tower. Meadowview, Meadow Lane, yeah,
Meadow Lane,
that
yeah.
area. I think that's fairly well contrived. That was infill, so that can always sort of be a challenge. But I think that was well laid out. Over by the golf course, so the subdivision that's up on top of the hill and that's semi-integrated with the back nine on Kestrel Ridge, I think that's pretty well laid out. This is over a span of 15 years, though. So one of the questions I just have to think over, like, is some of the reason that so few development has happened because code is a barrier, right? The city's been more actively involved in land development themselves over the last few years, which I think can potentially be a sign that something's a barrier, whether it's code or something else, right? Why isn't this being undertaken more eagerly by land developing entities? I can't speak to the processes involved with those subdivisions I named. I'm not under the impression that there were exceptions pursued or PUD-style elements embedded in them, apart from the one that is on the westerly side of the city, which barely has any development in it at all. I'm starting to get bad with names. Mike, what's behind our house?
A field.
Yeah, I know. What's the name?
Community trails?
Community trails.
Yeah.
Community trails. Okay, that one, I think, has not been developed for a variety of reasons. I think primarily was the 2008 housing or financial bubble bursting. It also has some wetland and floodplain issues, but to be fair, those were really not kind of layered on top until floodplain study got redone in the early 2010s, right? The subdivision happened, sat, and then a remapping effort came along, and so there's floodplain areas there now, which is, I'm sure, posing some hurdles to development. But that one was, okay. That one had a lot of PUD elements in it. It was very non-traditional, okay? I don't know if that was a function of the developer attempting to do like really different and interesting things. I don't think it was. I mean, looking at that subdivision today, I don't see anything in there that I don't think could have fit somehow into a zoning ordinance, right? There are lots of various sizes. There are multifamily, single family, duplex, no commercial, although there are some larger lots that I guess presumably could have been reserved for that kind of thing. But that had a PUD overlay on it, kind of all over the place, all sorts of restrictive covenants, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And trying to look at that in arrears from a plan commission standpoint or a city staff standpoint, trying to find like all the records and the rules that were overlaid on that.
Right.
Ugh. Right, I've talked to Mike Corman a couple times about that, like how to try to free ourselves from some of those barriers.
Right.
That area's got enough problems. Let's not let sort of the past paperwork pile be a problem. Okay, I know I've talked a lot. The last thing I want to say is we've talked about residential areas. I don't know. I mean, I chair Plan Commission. We get all sorts of stuff coming through our commercial district out, especially near the highway. And that always seems to be just all sorts of mixed bag kind of stuff. I don't know that the traffic flow really works well there. I don't think it's been a barrier thus far. I kind of fear the day that something else gets proposed that suddenly is the straw that breaks the camel's back. Now, admittedly, I don't know if that's zoning code related or just sort of master planning related, but I felt that was
Probably a little bit of both. I
felt that was
mean, with
worth noting.
a potential large-scale development, like a traffic impact analysis could be something that's required as part of like a zoning process, in addition to layout of like where driveways would go and access points and that kind of thing.
Right.
But if you're talking about the volume of the road itself, that's a little bit beyond the purview of this in terms of like how that evolves over time, right?
Right. Admittedly, it's working with the built environment,
Right,
which can
right.
always be a challenge.
Right.
But, okay, thanks.
Well, thank you.
Well, the rest of it,
So like Uriah said, like there's barriers. So this is fairly new to me. Are we gonna ask developers what the barriers are? What they don't like about the city of Columbus? What holds them from coming here? Or what takes so long for Columbus to approve things? Because I've heard stuff through the rumor mill from developers and people that submit bids. So is that part of this? Are we gonna reach out?
Yeah, we were planning to have some stakeholder discussions now. Obviously, those developers could participate in the public events in September that we're planning. But we're planning to do some dedicated sort of stakeholder engagement, and in particular, developers could be one of those groups to learn about those types of things. Absolutely.
Alder Meyer.
I guess overall, my only ask on this entire rewrite is that, I mean, we cut out the red tape, we make it easy to develop, right? while we protect the integrity of our overall city, right? We're not throwing up high rises and things of that nature, but we make it easier and more attractive to developers to want to develop within the city of Columbus.
Yeah. Oh, Jim, go ahead, or Steve, I mean, go ahead.
I'm going to add a little bit as from the perspective of someone who has developed commercial real estate. And in my day job, I help people who are buying commercial buildings all day long. That's what I do. So I help people with developments in Indiana and North Carolina and Illinois. For what it's worth, I would say my experience working with commercial developers who are building in all these other cities is we're kind of mid-pack. There's certainly places, like if I'm working with customers in Illinois, if you're anywhere near Chicago, good luck. It's way, way harder than here. But you get further rural in those states, and it's much easier. The biggest challenge that I think that a lot of developers might have is that to come before a plan commission, you have to have stormwater plans. You have to have you have to have anything with wetlands figured out. There's a lot of expensive engineering that a commercial business would have to do before we approve this, before we approve a conditional use permit. And the trick with that is that, well, how can you approve something if you don't know what they're doing? And if they haven't hired a professional engineer, but they don't want to hire that professional engineer unless they know that they're getting approval. So, it's, for me, I built the storage units that are on over on Highway 60. And when I first did it, it was a real eye-opener. You could spend $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 on stormwater planning and civil engineering before you even know if you have to do it. So it's really hard. It's hard to get a loan when you've got all these unknowns. And so someone has to put out their own money before they can get financing. So I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing. You need things designed correctly, and you need them designed correctly during the approval process, but you've got that chicken and egg situation. And if you haven't been through that, that's big, so sharing that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I got lots to say. I'm going to try and keep it concise. I think in response to what Steve just said, we incur fees in reviewing those plans, right? And a lot of times the challenge is when they're let's say half baked, or you have a stormwater plan put together by a Kansas engineering firm that doesn't understand Wisconsin stormwater law, we incur more expense in our engineering review in going through those plans, right? And so the chicken egg thing is real, and I'm curious so over the last 5 years, communities across the state have looked at all these barrier reduction, and I know Vandewalle has worked with most of them in how to remove those barriers. And so I think as we look at this, trying to learn what other communities have done and learn from how they've reduced some of those barriers is important. The one thing I want to talk about is parking. I think one of the most expensive components of development projects as I've heard over years is related to parking. And so in greenfield development, new development, how do we reduce and make parking make sense for the project and not give us some flexibility? And then with infill and downtown development as it relates to parking, what role can the city play in facilitating some joint parking, permit parking to make some of that infill reality? Where, you're converting 2 upstairs apartments into 6, and now you're bringing 6 people in instead of 2, and where are they going to park? And how can the city play a role in helping facilitate some of that desired investment in the downtown by working with multiple property owners to create parking so that isn't seen as a limiting factor in downtown development. The other thing I want to talk about are fees. The first thing that everybody wants to do is get rid of fees, right? And there are fees we don't have that other communities have that I hope part of this discussion talks about, because say we get a new and I know this is wishful thinking, but say we get a new 100 home subdivision phased in over 10 years. That new subdivision is going to have parkland expectations by the people who live there, right? And who should pay for those park improvements? Is it our existing residents or is it the new residents? And that's where things like parkland dedication, via ordinance, park impact fees help the new residents and ultimately the developers pay for those new parks that are needed, because your new residents in those areas are going to want parks. But if you don't have those fees, the only way those things happen is if your existing residents and your new residents end up paying for them. And so, my time in Middleton, we collected a lot of park development fees for new residential development that help support new park amenities and new park development. And again, no developer is going to tell you they want to pay park fees, but it becomes a discussion for the Plan Commission and the council on who they want to pay for those new needed parks. And the same thing is true on your utility infrastructure, all the impact fees across the board. They're always looked at as a barrier to development, but it becomes a discussion on the elected bodies of who do you want paying for those things that ultimately people are going to want and expect.
Alder Rested.
Impervious surfaces, is that part of this in the zoning?
Yeah.
So is there a state or federal mandate on that, or does the city of Columbus write their own impervious surface minimum and maximum requirements?
The city would, but the requirements for stormwater infiltration and mitigation come from beyond the city. So, there's some things that are regulated stormwater-wise at the state level. But from the city's level, in terms of saying you can have 60% lot coverage of impervious surface, that is completely up to you in saying what that minimum and maximum can be on the impervious surface side of things.
I have a quick thing to add to that.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true. The more impervious surface you allow on development, the more that development is going to have to dedicate with regard to space to accommodate the additional runoff. So you kind of, you can think about striking a balance with, all right, do we limit impervious surfaces knowing that that's going to pay off some on the infrastructure side and the space dedication side?
So I have a question. So when you say limit, does that mean more green space versus cement?
Is that in our current zoning code, certain zoning districts have a maximum lot size coverage for impervious area.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it can go both directions. But for example, in the downtown zoning district, you need to allow 100% impervious surface because the entirety of the site is going to be built on. And, as you move into different areas, then it's adjusted proportionally to those different areas. So it might be 60% on the edge of town and 100% downtown, or some variation thereof. But those are the types of metrics that get built into the zoning code.
Right, and not everything is driven by stormwater management.
Right.
You want high density zoning downtown, so you're gonna just sort of take that as part of the package.
Alder Lawson.
Didn't we just rewrite something related to that?
Yeah.
We did. Okay. The one concern, I guess, with this that I hope gets addressed is the way we treat duplexes in the ordinance. They're currently treated as condos, and so the way that they're set up, if you own a duplex or half of a duplex, you and the other owner have to have a homeowners association and joint insurance unless you dissolve the homeowners association. So it's just kind of odd the way that that's treated.
Yeah, we also have we had a twin home situation that had that as well, that we had to resolve. Yep.
Good. Alder Rested.
I guess more of a question for the map and those that are watching at home. I'm sure they're asking, or maybe will ask. Is there a plan for all the non-conforming lot size, or is it just highlighted so you can dictate it? Because the ones outlined in red say they're non-conforming lot size.
So those give us the information to say, well, what is that lot size today? Just making up a number, say it's 6,800, but the minimum in the code is 7,000. Well, we should make a zoning district that allows for a 6,800 square foot lot versus having the minimum be 7,000. So the idea is we're identifying what the issue is right now, and we're gonna build in a solution into the code that enables that exact development pattern to be fine after this new code and remove that non-conforming situation altogether.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I was just thinking, we're finding a path to lot sizing on this.
We're trying to solve a lot of different problems, and there's pros and cons to a lot of them, and those are the policy decisions we're gonna have to discuss. Yep.
Steve?
You're on. I'm on?
Yep.
I don't want to sound like a real novice here, but I hear the word zoning tossed around throughout the entire meeting. But my concern as a resident or homeowner is property lines. So through this rezoning, are the property lines in old part of the city and the out parts of the city going to be redesigned? Because there's a real nightmare out there as far as who owns what property and who pays taxes on what property. Is the zoning project that you're doing involving property lines?
The subdivision code does involve the property configuration, right? But it will not change what someone's property lines are. That is dictated by the person. The property owner would have to request changing of those lines. So the subdivision code is going to build in the process steps for how that takes place, in addition to the standards that would have to be met if you're creating new lots, for example, those types of things. But we're not physically going to change any configuration of a property through this process.
So you won't be changing the lot line, but you could be changing some of the requirements related to the lot line, like setbacks
Yeah.
with certain size lots, right?
So zoning and the subdivision code, we're not physically changing anything on the ground with this. We are enabling opportunities to take place that property owners choose to make moving forward. So right now, if the property owner, if you own a property and you want to change the property line, then the city staff is looking at the subdivision code, looking at the zoning code to say, how can you make that happen by your request, right? So this process is not changing your physical configuration of your property. It's just dictating the city standards for what that process and what it would have to, the requirements essentially.
So if you want to change your property line based on how the neighborhood lays out, it's my understanding that you have to fund the surveyor group to come in and redesign the property lines and get an agreement with everybody.
That is accurate, yes.
Jeez. Okay. All right, thank you.
I'll just highlight that that's the process in every community that I'm aware of. I don't know if you've come across anything different, but everywhere I've been, that's the process that you have to work with.
No, the city does not have the ability to change property lines. It's driven by property owners, correct?
Right. And so the property owner has to have their property surveyed, work with their neighbors on any lot line adjustments, and then
Yes.
record that certified survey map.
With the Register of Deeds.
Correct.
Any other comments or questions? Anything further that you have?
Well, no, I know you guys have another meeting after this, so I do appreciate all of you coming together and having this discussion. If you do go home and you think of something else, or a week from now you think of something else, email it to city staff and they can get it to me. Do want to make you aware of those upcoming events, and we'll provide some advertising materials so you can get those out to your constituents, your neighbors, your friends, things like that. And then we will see the Plan Commission in the not too distant future, and hopefully you guys as well as you keep involved in this process. But thank you very much.
All right. Oh, Ryan? you're
Ju-
gonna-
I was going to ask earlier, on the bottom of page 1, it says total planning commission working sessions, and city council
Yeah.
working sessions. So are each of us off one now?
Correct.
Or
This
what?
is one of those.
But for who? For both?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, once we have a draft text, then there'll be 2 more council opportunities. As we're working through these first steps, there'll be more plan commission opportunities. So, we know you guys are busy, you have a lot of things. We know this is important, but we want to get to you guys, back when we have more things figured out at the plan commission level, next steps what.
Anything further from anybody? Okay, hearing none, I would look for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
You got, unfortunately, you did get it. So,
We need to take that.
motion by Alder Finkler, second by Alder Roki. Discussion, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We stand adjourned.
Good thing the next meeting she can't do it.